In today's video, I'm going to be talking about work-life balance and how you can improve it in context to your life and gain more control. If you don't know who I am already, my name is Michael Tabaradi, coach and mentor, and I help self-starters and ambitious millennial professionals improve their productivity, enhance their performance, and live life more on purpose. If this is the first time you've checked out my YouTube channel, make sure to check it out and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and as always, all the links to the video are below in the description. Now I want to get this out of the way straight from the get-go. There is no such thing as work-life balance. It doesn't exist. And so in today's video, I'm going to really be talking about what that means and how you can improve your sense of work-life balance. And if you wait to the end, you'll hear my number one tip that you'll need in order to move forward. So let's get to it. If you've seen my previous lives or previous videos, you'll realize that I speak about something quite a lot, and that is living by your values. Okay, I talk about this a lot and you can check it out with this video. And so with that in mind, if you are not clear about what is important to you in context to your life, then of course you're not going to have any sense of work-life balance. You're going to be in a position where you're continuously trying to compete with different priorities and get to a point where you feel stuck and confused. And so understanding what is important to you, understanding and being clear about what your life lessons are and what your principles are based on what life has taught you will be very important in terms of deciding what you decide to balance. In the book, The One Thing, the author talks about the fact that rather than focusing on balance, you should focus on counterbalance. In other words, focus on the priorities and do what you can with everything else. The second thing I'd like to talk about is happiness. What makes you happy? Now we understand that happiness is a mood, but also we have to understand that there are certain measurables that define our sense of happiness. And Martin Seligman, psychologist, talks about this in his book, Flourish. So check it out if you want to learn more about that stuff. But there are questions that we need to ask in order for us to understand what truly does align to our sense of happiness. What do we like? What don't we like? What are we trying to achieve? Why are we trying to achieve it? What do we need to compromise in order to achieve these things? If you understand who you want to become and how you need to become that person or what you need to do to become that person, then you get to a point of really being clear about developing that sense of balance, or at least understanding what your priorities are. So focus on that next. The third thing that I want to address is sticking to a rhythm. What that really means is really understanding what are the core things that you need to do. Now, for me personally, I like to stick to using Google Calendar in order to make sure that my core activities are kept to in terms of what I need to do day to day. In addition to that, I also like to use a Trello board in order to understand what specific tasks that I need to focus on. Now, if I'm focusing on Google, for me, it's the key events and the key meetings and the key activities that I need to do in relation to health, business, my work life, etc., etc. When it comes to my Trello board, this is specifically going to be 1 to 3 items per day that I'm knocking off my list, and I use Kanban to do that in terms of a process. So if you want to check out what that process looks like, again, leave a comment below. In addition to that, you need to be in a position where you're flexible with the timescales that you actually create. So if you're blocking out time in your calendar, don't make it completely robust and rigid to the point where you can't actually account for any sort of mistakes or delays that may occur when you're actually achieving that specific activity. Because if you do that, then you're creating this internal pressure that makes you feel like you're not achieving that work-life balance, you're not really achieving the priorities, and you may start getting stressed. So think about flex time and flexibility in terms of an upper ratio and a lower ratio in terms of how you're going to achieve stuff. So for example, if you were going to do push-ups every single day, maybe the minimum goal is 10 push-ups, the maximum being 40, and maybe the middle being 30. And so that gives you some wiggle room in terms of how you're approaching this specific habit. And so you're not getting overwhelmed in that sense. In addition to that, it's also important to understand that you should do things in batches. So for example, I'm shooting this YouTube video right now, but I'm going to shoot many other videos for many other weeks and edit it all in one go, so it saves me time in the future. Again, I'm scheduling my time. I'm making sure that time is protected because it gives me more time in the future. That's the same thing that you could do with some of your projects as well. In addition to that, I make sure that I don't get heavily distracted by my phone. So again, if you haven't checked out the video where I'm talking about how you can minimize distractions with social media Again, make sure you check it out so you can receive more information and perform at a higher standard. Another thing to think about is putting in time to actually review different activities, different goals in different areas of your life. So again, I've spoken about the Wheel of Life before. And so with that in mind, you can look at your business, career, romantic, social life, and just think to yourself, what has worked really well? What hasn't worked so well? But more importantly, what do I need to improve? And so focusing on those improvements, you get to a point of understanding what are the next steps that you need to take or make. And so review becomes a really important thing. Maybe you want to do a weekly review with your partner or accountability buddy. Maybe you want to do yourself a quarterly review in terms of looking at it for yourself and understanding what you need to do. Maybe this review is part of a mastermind group. However you decide to do it, make sure you actually schedule in time to look at what you've done in order for you to improve your actions in the future. Because you stay to the end, here's a nice bonus tip for you. Make sure you focus. And when I'm saying this, I'm really talking about being extreme. If you focus on trying to balance everything at one time, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you make a decision to say, I'm going to be extremely focused and determined on actually fulfilling certain goals, then you get to a point of actually achieving excellence. And so you need to think to yourself, what is energy supporting and what is energy draining? Once you have that understanding, you know what you need to cast and what you need to focus on. Here are some additional things to think about when it comes to getting that work-life balance or that counterbalance as stated before. So the first thing is start small, but be consistent. As long as you're consistent, then you can add layers later on. The next thing is to make sure that there is a level of flexibility in terms of the criteria for achieving your goal per day, as spoken about before. The third thing is making sure that your environment is optimized for success. Make sure that lighting is correct, that you're wearing the right sort of stuff, that you have the right sort of music, that you have the right sort of tools or systems in place to enable you to be effective. The fourth thing is having a value-based system. What that effectively means is that do things according to your values. Create a system or set of rituals and routines that align to what is important to you. And the last thing is to leverage other people. Accountability buddies, making sure you have a mastermind group, using your partner and all these other people can help you be accountable to your goals, because again, if someone else is watching you, you're at a point where you're more likely going to achieve success. So remember those different criterion when it comes to actually achieving your goals and sticking to making sure you get a sense of work-life balance. So as I stated before, it's about making sure you stick to your priorities. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking about the Eisenhower matrix and how you can be more effective in terms of planning your priorities. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. And until next time, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.